As great as most one-person business owners are, I see many of them at a disadvantage in the earlier stages of the solo business journey. I'm not only seeing it for myself, but I've experienced myself. There's three major things that plague most rookie one-person businesses as they're getting started. And it's not specifically the business themselves, but the owner, the person that is running this thing. And as a solo business, you are the business, right? Here's three things that I really see plaguing a lot of us in the early stages. This is kind of what I'm summing up as like a little bit of the solopreneur curse. First off, lack of accountability. Many new business owners in the solo space have little to no accountability. The thing is, you're not a part of communities. You're not in groups online or discussing with other people that are in the trenches, fighting the good fight right alongside you with their own business. And it's very likely that you don't have a business coach yet either. And so what happens is you spend the majority of your time on your own with really no one holding you accountable to how you invest your time, especially in the beginning. And we know that it's hard to figure out priorities and setting goals, especially if this is your first rodeo. Some people have jumped into solo business ownership and kind of building that up on their own after having quite a bit of a roster of success and experience in other types of business models. And so there's a lot of things that they have. There's these skills that they've learned along the way. But for most of us, there's a lack of accountability, and that's tough when you are also struggling with setting goals and really just knowing how to manage your time appropriately so that you get to ultimately where you want to end up at the end of the day. What's your dream, desire, or outcome from this business? Like, you have to have that in the forefront of your mind from day one and somewhat know how to carve your path from where you are now to where you want to end up. A lack of accountability is going to make that a lot harder, and it's going to take more time to get where you ultimately want to end up if you don't have anything keeping you accountable. I think that's one huge component of this solopreneur curse. The second thing is unthrottled creativity. You know, in many cases, solopreneurs are also very creative. Anybody that's that entrepreneurial, spirited person, your gears are turning all the time. And so you come up with all of these ideas, and every idea seems like a great idea because it's something that you came up with out of thin air. And obviously you're excited about what's on your mind, right? But this, what it does is it creates this unthrottled creativity. And this is a bad thing, or at least it can be. See, when your overabundance of creativity leaves you unfocused, chasing shiny objects, or thinking about new ideas instead of sticking to the game plan, it becomes more of a hindrance than a help. You know, it's very, very hard to get anywhere in life and in business. This applies. This is a fundamental of just existence, you know, as human beings. And that is, if you're splitting your time and your focus and your energy across too many things, then you're never really going to be able to get to the finish line on any one of those things. You have to practice the game of subtracting as opposed to adding on to, especially as a new solo business owner. So that creative brain can really come to bite you and not help you. You think that this is this thing that can really help you move forward, and it's like, oh, I have all these great ideas. I'm going to be able to solve all these problems, so on and so forth. But we got to stay focused. It's all about focus. Creativity, us creative-minded people, that's tough for us sometimes. And then the third thing that I have for us today on the solopreneur curse, so that I can kind of lay the framework of what we're talking about today, is this high ignorance tax, or you could call it an ignorance debt. It's really the thing where you don't know what you don't know. It's the truth for all of us. And if you've never ran a solo online or digital business before, you'll earn a lot of stripes in your first few years because everything you do is going to be new and fresh. And hopefully you're trying to be a sponge and look at, you know, the world around you and learn from the people that have come before you in this journey, and you're just soaking it up. You know, the early years of a child in their development, in their brain development, I mean, they're a sponge. They're taking in the world and learning and executing upon it. You know, and that's how we are when we start a solo business. But you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know how to fix that until you actually, you know, mount the horse and get going, so to speak. And so the learning is really valuable. But the thing is, the faster you pay down this ignorance debt, the sooner you'll be able to see your business take off and support you and your dreams. So between lack of accountability, unthrottled creativity, and a high ignorance debt or ignorance tax, this is a solopreneur curse. And I think there are some other things that we could go into. But here's the thing. With nobody steering you in the right direction, you have mismanaged creativity and a big portion of ignorance due to a lack of experience, which you can't change until you just continue to keep going one day in, one day in, one day in, day after day. With all of this kind of up that we're up against, many new solo business owners either throw in the towel, they just quit too soon, or they waste an ungodly amount of time working on things that just don't move the needle. And what I've learned over the past 4 years in my solo business journey is that there's really only two things that you need to focus on in order to become successful. Only two things. Everything else can be put to the side for now. Number one, what you sell. This is the offer. We're going to refer to it as the offer, and I'll break that down in a minute. And number two, how you communicate this to the world. And I'm going to call this the media. So we've got the offer and the media. So we're going to jump into this so you understand kind of what I mean from both things. And as a preface, as a side note before we jump into this, I'm not going to explain how to craft a perfect offer or how to set up media creation and distribution within your one-person business, but we're going to look at the fundamentals of what they are, how they connect to one another, and why these are the only two things you need to be paying attention to for a while until you start to really grow the business and see it take off. And obviously, then the ignorance debt has gone down. You've learned a bunch, and now you can start to adapt and kind of carve your own path past what we're talking about today. But this is incredibly important. So number one, the most important thing here, the offer. If your true intention is to build a sustainable business, then your offer is paramount. The offer is not the product. Let me say that again. Your offer is not a product. Your offer is not your sales pitch either. Your offer is, in fact, the holistic culmination of a handful of things. And I have these in the email version, I have these listed out as bullet points. So I'll take you through each bullet point right now. Your offer is the culmination of a problem your target customers have. The people that you want to do business with, that you want to sell to, whether it's a product or a service, whatever it is that you provide as a solution to something, which we're about to get to. We want to help a very specific group of people. And so the offer includes the problem that your target customers have, then also includes a potential solution to this problem, which is your product or service. It also includes a method of delivering this solution to the customer, as well as a promise to the customer that they'll benefit from the solution. And finally, it also includes the assurance that the risk of purchase is non-existent or minimal for the customer. So with an offer, we're talking everything. It's not just the thing that you're selling, whether that be a product or a service. This always applies. Your offer is not only the solution to the problem you solve for the customer, but also their satisfaction of the way in which the problem is solved. So it's everything from beginning to end. And so you can have different promotions as a part of your offer. What you do is like even the part of the selling of it, which promotions I guess could fall into that, of course. Part of the sales pitch, if you will, is part of the offer because you're offering something. The product is just the thing, or the service is just the thing. That's the actual solution. That's when you're actually solving the problem. But helping people understand what it is that you're selling, understanding what their problem is, putting those two pieces together and recognizing, hey, this thing that you're selling will solve my problem or solve this one of my problems. It's all of that. And then removing or mitigating the risk so that they feel confident and comfortable and excited to purchase from you. The offer is a holistic combination of all of those things. So there's plenty of people out there, for instance, in solo business land and even beyond, where they have a product and maybe it's a really awesome product, but the offer around it isn't compelling. They're not really selling it very well. So you have to be thinking through your target audience, what their problems actually are, and then actually plugging in the solution that you've created. So that's what I'm talking about when I say offer. If you focus on developing a great offer, you're on the right track. So it goes beyond the thing that you're selling. Most newbies, me included, at the beginning, you get too caught up in the elements of a new business that really don't matter nearly as much. And here's where I've found my time going when I'm just, I've just been off the rails before, thinking that I'm being hyper productive, getting all sorts of stuff done. And that's not stuff that actually helps you grow the business or start getting sales or growing your audience. Distracted solopreneurs spend too much time on perfecting their website, tinkering with their bios online, flippantly cold DMing people to just ask if they have 10 minutes to talk. They spend too much time on coming up with a logo, making sure that it's absolutely perfect, figuring out their color palettes, the typography, or what fonts they're going to be using, coming up with templates for whether it's the website like I mentioned or in your emails, or just, how about this one, doing research. I think we're all guilty of that if we were to be really, really honest with ourselves here. A lot of us spend way too much time doing research. And sure, it's good to take in information. It's good to look at what's working for other people. Absolutely. But is that taking away from you actually working in the trenches on building a great offer? See, all of those things that seem productive but are really time wasters right now, those are all just tiny Legos of the castle. If you think about this kind of Lego structure, and that's always top of mind for me with a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, I'm hanging on the floor playing with Legos with my boys all the time. And so, this visualization of you want to build this castle or whatever the thing is that you want, all of the tiny Lego pieces have to come together and hold down the fort in their own way, what their role is, so that you can have this finished product, this castle that I'm referring to. And perfecting your website and trying to really optimize your LinkedIn profile and coming up with a great logo and tagline and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's important, but it's not more important than having a great offer. If those things are the tiny Legos of the castle, then your offer is the throne. It's the thing that means the most, that holds the most weight and significance for your business. Your offer will always come first. And then the other side of this equation, we're jumping into number 2, the media. And what I think is that if you truly believe your offer is a great solution to a very real problem, then media is your best broadcast mechanism. Your media serves as the marketing for your business. And of course, I like to go to, I just go to ChatGPT now to ask questions as opposed to Google, just to kind of continue to put in my repetitions with just AI and learning how to use it better and better and better. So if you're on the email version of this, I have a screenshot, or if you go to the blog at evanshank.com, you'll see this little screenshot where I asked ChatGPT, what is media? And this is what it said. Media refers to the various means or channels through which information, news, entertainment, and communication are transmitted to a wide audience. It encompasses different forms such as print, broadcast, and digital platforms that enable the creation, distribution, and consumption of content. So if you think media, you could also just kind of replace that with content. At least that's kind of how my brain works, and maybe some of you out there that are smarter than me would nitpick that a little bit. But what we're really talking about here is content, the media. And what I do is I do talk a lot on content marketing, email marketing, and social media marketing, because together these 3 marketing efforts will not only promote your offer, but potentially even open the doors to new revenue streams. We're living in a digital age, and I've been hearing the term digital renaissance happening all over the place because there's just new opportunities blooming everywhere. And as a solo online business owner, you are right there at the spearhead forefront of these opportunities. You're able to take advantage of these. And so I don't want to dig very much into how this does open new doors to revenue streams, but just understand that focusing on media is going to have it's a high leverage element of your business. And that's why it's very important here, because you're able to get a lot of value out of the effort that you put into creating and distributing media. So to break down, this is my own little adaptation of a marketing funnel. This is going to sound very familiar to those of you who are schooled up on the basics of marketing, and I've even talked about this a little bit before. But at the base level, the steps in a buyer's journey is as follows. And this is kind of like a chronological sequence as well. 1, attention. People need to notice you. Then it moves on to 2, awareness. People need to recognize you. They've noticed you. Now they recognize you. They've seen you before. They're aware that you exist. Number 3 then becomes interest. People need to care about what you say, what you do, what you offer, so on and so forth. Now they have interest around you as a person, as a brand, and what you're doing, the good that you're doing for the world. It moves on to number 4, desire. People need to crave what you provide, whether this is your high-ticket consulting package that you offer on your website, all the way through to just these shorts that you're posting up on YouTube with your media. These are things that we want to get our target audience desiring and craving. We need to get them to crave what you provide. And then finally, 5, action. People need to solve their problem with the solution that you provide, not the person next door, not anybody else. We want them to solve their problems with the stuff that you provide. And what happens is people can naturally swing from one vine to the next with the media that you produce and distribute across online channels. So media is really powerful. We're kind of talking about the marketing arm of all of this because that's where it comes into play really, really well. And I'd say if you're 5 years or less into your solo business, you're going to want to do everything you can to put your best foot forward because you're promoting yourself with your media. So what we need to remember is that in the beginning of any new business, every impression is a first impression, and first impressions stick. So this shouldn't be a point to kind of like all of a sudden kind of be a little nervous and feel like you have to go back to like, oh, I need a perfect website. I need a perfect logo. I need the perfect tagline, yada, 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 yada. Because if first impressions are most important and see that like that whole thing that starts to spin up in your mind, I'm bringing that up because that's how I was. And I still have to kind of fight against that in different things that I'm doing because I immediately go to like, oh, I don't want them to think that I suck or that I'm, haphazard with my approach. It's like, why would I record a crappy audio or crappy video when I have a cool content studio set up where I could do something a little bit nicer? And yeah, that's all true. But once again, we need to just be using our words to communicate our values. And through doing that and showing the world what we're offering, what we're creating to offer people, whether products or services, as always, it's just really important that we recognize that that is the most important thing. It's not about perfecting all of those other things. Those are tiny Legos, and you can build over time. And maybe the first impression is like, oh, wow, this person is posting a lot of short form videos online. Like I'm seeing their face more often. That's awesome. And whether the audio or the video is great, it's more about the content and if it speaks directly to that person. And if so, they're very much likely that they're in your like towards the center of your target audience of who you're kind of going after, who you're trying to actually have see your stuff and go through that buyer's journey that I talked about, from attention all the way through action, those 5 steps. So the media serves as an attention-getting, trust-building, which is key, trust-building, interest-generating, action-inspiring mechanism that perfectly walks your target audience closer and closer to what you offer. Media makes them aware. Media helps them trust you, understand that you're a real person that's really looking out for them, and that's why you've created what you've created, and you've built a business off of it, because that's an opportunity that is available to all of us today in the modern age. Media is the curb appeal and the golden entryway to that castle. We talked about the throne being the offer, where media is the curb appeal and the golden entryway. It's the aesthetics of everything, and it's you're displaying your values, as I mentioned. This is where your customers' problems vanish into nothing when applying the solutions or the offers that you provide. So the key takeaway here is finding balance. There's a beautiful harmony that we're looking for between focusing on spending our time on developing great offers. And side note, I would suggest just start with one. Don't try to spin up a bunch at the same time. And then also that marriage between working on that and working on building out media and the marketing and you broadcasting your existence and how you're helping the world. So we're looking for that harmonious balance. And and this really just refers to kind of just another principle of life, which I always love to distill things down to, because principles and fundamentals are things that we can remember and hold on to, and we can apply it. We can copy and paste fundamentals into so many different situations, and it will steer us in the right direction. So this is just kind of like life, where the best outcome is found in balancing both the offer and the media. And admittedly, when I jumped into solopreneurship, I spent way too much time on media alone. I was really caught up in that. I would spend literally all day trying to come up with an idea or two, record those things, edit them, and then schedule them. And I'd only end up with like 2 to 3 short form clips. And a lot of times they sucked because I didn't have repetitions yet. I hadn't found my voice like on the microphone, and I didn't feel comfortable with a light in my face. Even with all of my performance background, as you can tell if you're watching the video version, I've got guitars. I've been performing and playing music for, almost 2 decades now. So I hadn't really thought about that. Man, it's been a while. But, even with all that experience, like in the space of this little solo business and trying to put myself out there to the world to let them know like what I'm about and what I'm doing and what I'm offering, or wanting to offer, I just like all of it sucks because you just have to put in reps. It's like you don't build muscle after 1 week in the gym. It happens over months and months and months. And then it's undeniable that you've been putting in the reps, right? And so I was so focused on the media, and I wanted every single little thing to be so perfected that at the end of the day, there's no way it could have been perfect because I was just too rookie with it. I didn't know what I didn't know, and so I had to put in those reps. And I still am, man. That's what I'm doing right now. If you go back and look at some of the earlier M&Ms, the podcast, and even some of the videos that are on YouTube, it's a little clunky. And I tried to polish that by hiring an editor to kind of clean up just the whole presentation of it. But it was costing me money, and it didn't really resemble, I wasn't really showcasing me as a normal dude, which is what I wanted to do, because as a personal brand and solo business owner, like what's important, going back to that trust component that I mentioned earlier, is that you feel like you know me. You feel like you can trust me, And so that's where it has to, that's what's most important. So anyway, put in the reps as I digress. So just the funny thing here, worth mentioning, I guess, too. I got something in my eye. Oh, man. All right, I'm good. When I was so focused on media, I didn't even have anything to offer to people if I wanted to. Like, I was a freelance email marketer, so in some sense, I was kind of pitching it out there like, hey, if you need help with your email marketing, in your new or struggling business, like let me know. And, so it was kind of that, but I hadn't really put together an offer and like service packages and kind of productized it and just made it to where it was a compelling offer, something that people would want to look into and consider purchasing for themselves. So I was focused so much on media and brand awareness and just kind of getting my name out there that I wasn't paying any attention to an offer. And I think if I was really honest with myself, it goes back to a bit of imposter syndrome, I think, where I didn't want to try to sell something too soon because I didn't even believe that I could provide value in some sense. And it's not that was like the actual truth. It was my subjective opinion of myself, and we're always our own worst critics. But nonetheless, we're trying to strike balance between working on media and working on offers. And if you're there, you're on the right track. So clearly at that point in my career, I had not learned the rule that we're kind of discussing today. The core of any business, no matter what industry, the core is having something to sell. And the only way to sell is to broadcast to the world what you have to offer. Because in the beginning, you don't have an audience, you don't have a backlog. Like you think of famous people that spin up their own little products here and there, or sign some sort of huge sponsorship deal with a brand. They have a huge audience, they have a huge following. Like, so it doesn't really take much for them to all of a sudden see, sales coming through. And they already have that built up. And that's why building media is important for us, so that we have that growing over time. And like I mentioned earlier, this entry is less about how to create the offer and how to create media, and more about just kind of the time and priority management of it all. The problem we're attempting to solve in this entry today is non-existent business growth due to a lack of experience, a lack of focus, and a lack of accountability. In order to truly gain something from today's entry, ask yourself the following questions. These are kind of the action steps for us today. Number 1, ask, what's your to-do list look like? And what does your calendar look like for this week? Okay, just kind of note that, right? And then ask, what percentage of each day is dedicated to perfecting your offer or multiplying your media, building that out? And then thirdly, ask yourself, are you sure what you're doing is the most important priority based on where you're at in your business? Everybody's priorities is going to be different. So all we can really do is kind of zoom out and look at kind of the fundamentals and the basics of everything. And that's what today is about, because I can't say that, if I were to go into much more detail past like looking at just a very broad scope of offer and media and tell you that these other things are priorities, like making sure you have like a super good logo or a great website. It depends on where you're at in your business. Because if you have no offer and you have no way to broadcast that to the world and build trust through that, then, you're spinning your wheels. You are not going to get up the mountain of your personal mountain of success, as I like to refer to it, if you're focusing on the things that are just the tiny Legos, as we mentioned earlier. So ask yourself those questions. Look at your to-do list. Look at your calendar. What's it look like? What percentage of your time are you dedicating to the offer and to the marketing component of your business, the media? And then just check in with yourself. Just be really honest, because at the end of the day, I want to see you successful. You want to become successful. We're all cheering for each other here in this community. Like, we're all normal people, and it's a world of abundance. There's plenty of room for all of us to find our success and make the money that we want and have the freedoms that we desire for our dream lifestyle, right? So be honest with yourself and say, is this the most important priority? Am I really doing something that's actually going to help me build the business? Or am I doing stuff that could help, but likely won't because of where you're at right now in your business? So if you chip away at crafting a great offer and continually produce media to share with the world, it's only a matter of time before this focused effort begins to pay off. And I hope you have a great week. Until next time, peace.